Okay, so welcome to episode 2 of the ZD Racing 1920 version 3 rebuild. I've had a few more ideas about how to solve the issue with the rubbing. So that's the major thing that I'm trying to solve. As you can see, there is there's no tolerance. Now what I do notice on the actual differential plastic, there's like a little lip that comes out ever so slowly, and that's the main part that's rubbing on the diff housing, inner diff housing. So what I'm thinking maybe is I've made this little rig, just a bolt with a few plastic washers so that I don't damage the plastic housing. And my idea is to actually get that into a drill, put it on there, grab a file, and then file down without damaging any of the other things. So I probably can't do this on camera, but I can demonstrate it a little bit, just filing down that lip. And so if I can get that lip down, I think I could solve the problem with the rubbing. So I'm going to go and try this now and see if I can get that right down, and see if that helps. Alright, so I've been able to grind away a bit of the plastic from there. It's not all gone, my drill went flat, but what I'll do is I'll show you how I made this this little jig thing. It's quite simple, but finding all the screws and stuff you need, you might be tricky if you don't have a whole bunch lying around. So if I get that off, you'll see that it's got a plastic piece there, and that goes into that hole like that. It's mainly just so that you don't damage the seals, because I've got another one here. It's another plastic bit, because you've got to have the, you've got the seal down in there. So if you damage any of that plastic, when you put the O-ring back in, it's going to be all scratched up and damaged, and your diff fluid's basically just going to leak out. So I would take the caution before doing this mod that you have something like this worked out. Whoops. Yeah, I don't, unless you really know what you're doing, I don't recommend doing this mod, because you could completely damage your diff. So there's a little disclaimer there. If you're not sure, don't do it. But yeah, I think I was able to take off quite a bit of the plastic. So hopefully, also note that this part here is metal. So not all of this is plastic. There's a little sensor bit there that's metal that's been pressed in. So that's pretty good. Alright, so what I'll do now is I'll rebuild the diff with all the components here the way that I think would be best, with the single shim on this side. So if I grab grab one of these. I'll probably end up skipping this forwards a little bit, because it's at this point I'm really just repeating everything I'm doing. So yeah, so put a little shim there, the bearing there, we'll put this back in here. So I've put it all back together, and after grinding down that lip with the file, we do actually have some tolerance now. So there's about, hang on, let me check that. Yeah, I'd say there's about 1.5 millimeters to 2 millimeters of tolerance in there now. So we're good. I've also, so I put the little shim in between the bearing here and the diff case, and I've put one big shim on this side and 2 shims on this side. So that's basically, I'm quite happy with the spacing and the sound. It's not too grindy, it's quite good, and I think that's what I'll go with when I rebuild my main diffs. These haven't been used, well that one has, but I've got some new ones that haven't. I need to go and get some differential silicone oil though before I attempt those. But hopefully this is the formula for rebuilding them and getting the diffs to a quality where they're not going to overheat and break and wear out, and you know, it could be the solution to these cars, because the diffs are definitely not good. They are absolutely terrible, and they need a lot of work to get working right. Now let's see if I can get this in there. It'll be a little bit hard to get together. There we go. That's it. So now both halves are on. It's shimmed. It's got decent amount of movement. You've got tolerances on both sides, so nothing's going to rub and wear and overheat. All I've got to do is get the grease in and rebuild both the diffs, put them back in the car, and we should be good to go. And then I'll be able to start doing some speed tests, some speed runs, and that's what basically I originally brought the car for. So that's good. Progress. It's the next day now, so what I've done is I've completely taken off that lip that was around there. But if you do this, don't take too much off inner diameter, because it looks like that lip might have been actually helping to hold this metal piece inside. So I would take off just the outside bit, but leave, I don't know if you can see that on camera, maybe if I move it back. There's a little bit of metal exposing through the plastic. It shouldn't be a problem. It should still hold, I'm hoping. But just keep that in mind. If you do this, just take off the outer part just to make that little bit of extra clearance. Yeah, so I got the diff oil, 2000 weight. I'm gonna be using this for the back diff, for the rear diff. Put a bit in there, I guess. It's not rocket science. That so I was checking the manual to see what the manual actually says about shimming, and it doesn't actually have it in there. They don't mention differential shimming at all. What's going on here? Why can't I get that in there? Oh, I see. It's probably why they're not shimming them in China before they ship that. You know, ZD Racing could do so much better if they took that little bit of extra time just to fine tune everything, you know. And especially the wheels. Oh man, right now that's one of the biggest things people are pointing out about ZD Racing online, is that the wheels are just breaking, especially if you get the Pirates 3, the monster truck version. But as I said, even my wheels that I've gotten with this one, the 1920 version 3, the wheels are just terrible. So now that we've got that there done, as you see, I've got the next one lined up here, ready to be put back together with a shim. But I'm going to wait because I want to put I want to actually put a 4,000 or 5,000 weight diff oil in that one for the front. Now, for the shimming, the best way that I come up with for shimming is obviously I need to go and get some grease for this as well. I'll be shooting off to town soon to get that. Now, the shimming for this, so you've got the two bearings there and you got the diff pinion here. What you need to do is put a shim on this side and here, so that shim goes there. Now I'm putting one because this shim is 0.5 millimeters. It's quite a thick one. But if you have like 0.2 millimeter shims, you could put 2 of those on here. And what that's going to do is give you, so that's going to push the pinion forwards just a little bit. So when you put your diff in, it's just going to help to mesh those gears better. And then what I do is I'll put that on and go reasonably tight, not too tight, but reasonably tight up to that point. And don't forget to put Loctite on this one, of course. There's still a bit of Loctite in there for me, so that's alright. So now that's like, it's got no play. And of course now what I did is on the side where on this side I put 3 shims, 3 0.2 millimeter shims. So 1, 2 and 3. I was going to do 2, but I played around a bit and I worked out that it needs 3. And then you've got 1 on this side, plus the little tiny one that I stuck in between the bearing and the diff there. So that's basically it. But you might need to use a screwdriver just to help push everything in. Yeah, that went in easy, that side. And then just lever that out. And there we go. So now there's very little play. Yeah. There's a tiny little bit of play, but it's not a lot. And that's what you want. You just want like I'm guessing for these you'd want like about a millimeter of play. And then of course you can get the cap on once you get the grease in. I have ball bearing grease here, but I don't really want to use that. I'd rather use the proper stuff. Right, so once that there goes back on, you should have a perfectly shimmed diff. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make your car run a lot smoother. There's going to be no friction wear in the diff anymore. It's going to last longer. Yeah, so that's good. I'm happy with that. Once I rebuild the both of them, grease them up, I'll be done.